Hi everyone, and welcome to another live session from the series Engineering Qualification Validation. And this is session number 131. Yes, 131 weeks that I am here. Sundays, 8:30 p.m. Brisbane time, talking about something related to the engineering qualification validation here in Australia and other subjects of engineering. And tonight, I will talk about how was the year 2021 for us engineers here in Australia. But first, for those that don't know me, my name is Gerson Ida, and I'm the founder of the website www.engineersinaustralia.com, a website to share content of value and useful information to help you in your journey to validate your engineering qualification in Australia. And I also share information about environmental management, workplace health and safety, day-to-day of engineering in Australia, and also about professional engineering recruitment. And if you haven't joined my Telegram group yet, you can use the link that I'm going to copy and paste now in the comments. I've got a Telegram group called Engineering Qualification Validation. Telegram is like WhatsApp. It's a messaging app where we've got more than 800 members now. And I usually post text and videos and audios and reminders about the free workshop and the live sessions as well. So I'm just pasting in YouTube. So join my Telegram group. So pasting now, also in Instagram, and also in Facebook. And also, if you're interested in the free workshop, as I mentioned, I usually run a free workshop, and the name of the workshop is I Want to Become an Engineer in Australia. We had the last one beginning of December. The next one is going to be in the beginning of March. But you can register to the next event. You just need to click in the link and just register. It's free. You don't need to pay anything to register for the workshop. So you can just click in there, put your name and your email address, and you are all set. And I really hope that you all had a happy Christmas and that the new year will bring loads of joy, health, peace, and success, especially if you are an overseas engineer trying to get your qualification validated here in Australia. And I will be here to help you in this journey. So let's get down to the business now, and I'm happy to be here to share my impressions on how the year of 2021 was for us, engineers here in Australia. And in the description, I put few topics. So just to, I think there are important topics that I thought about to talk tonight. And I would be interested to know if you are an engineer watching me, what type of engineer, and whereabouts are you? Perhaps you are here in Australia, or perhaps you're still in your home country. So the first topic that I want to talk about, how was in 2021, well, still 2021, but almost finishing, was about market demand for engineers. A lot of people, they ask me, hey, Gerson, but how is the market for engineers? Because people see a lot of engineers unemployed or working with something else. So the market demand is quite strong. There's still a lot of demand for engineers. But you need to remember that Australia is a country that everything works in a way that, in the correct way. So there is a demand, but the demand is for skilled professionals, for those ones that, and it depends on the state. In some states, there are some more requirements. For example, in Queensland, engineers that are registered with the Board of Professional Engineers of Queensland They are called RPEQ, Registered Professional Engineers of Queensland. They are in high demand. If you are a registered professional engineer of Queensland, you're probably not going to be unemployed. You will have lots of offers probably, and you will be able to choose which one you would like to grab. But obviously, not everyone is registered. New South Wales and Victoria, they are now starting the registration scheme. There is a transition period, but with time, all states probably they're going to require you to be a registered professional engineer, which means that you have to validate first your degree, and then you will have to attain your chartered professional engineer or registration or as a registered professional engineer. But the market demand in 2021 was really strong. There were thousands and thousands of job advertisements for engineers in all sort of fields: civil, mechanical, geotechnical, chemical, environmental, mining, production, plant, industrial. So all sorts of engineers. There were thousands and thousands of job advertisements. But as I said, it depends on the requirements. Majority of them, they ask for full-time permanent. So which means that you need to be at least a permanent resident or an Australian citizen, or have, one of the two, permanent residence or Australian citizen for a permanent job application. But if you are an international student or you had the right to work 40 hours, perhaps there were lots of offers for temporary full-time employees, not permanent, but temporary full-time. And that also was in high demand, especially because of COVID. A lot of people, they started to work from home. Some people started to work part-time. And with this, companies, they started to advertise part-time and also temporary positions. So the market demand for engineers in 2021 was really strong. And what's going to be next year? Well, next year, actually, I'm going to talk next week in the first live session of 2022. The checklist for you to start with the right foot your journey to become an engineer in Australia, and how you can get your first professional job here in Australia as well. The other topic that I'm going to talk about is employability. How was employability for engineers in 2021? You've got to remember that 2020 and 2021, we had the borders shut here in Australia. It's just reopened. It was started to reopening now. So, which means that some, I think, according to Engineers Australia, was about 17,000 engineers that didn't come to Australia per year. So if you think about 2 years, it's about 34,000 engineers that didn't come from overseas to Australia. So, which means that the engineers that are here in Australia, were here in Australia in 2021, they certainly had more, they were more employable. Why is that? Because the demand was quite strong and the supply of engineers was not very big. But again, if you didn't have your qualification validated, if you didn't have the right skills, if you were not willing perhaps to move from a major city like Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane, moving to other places like Adelaide and Perth and Gold Coast, Darwin, Tasmania. So if you're willing to do those things, you certainly become more employable. And I know many people, many engineers, that they left Sydney, they left Melbourne, and they ended up coming or going to other places, which is kind of a regional or rural areas. And when we talk about regional, Perth is regional, Gold Coast is regional, Sunshine Coast is regional, Adelaide is regional, so you don't really need to go to the middle of nowhere to get a job. There are lots of opportunities in the middle of nowhere, but then it's your choice. You got to remember that if going to nowhere, in the middle of nowhere, will be much easier for you to get a permanent visa, well, you may need to consider that option, because I think that the most important thing is for you to get a permanent visa. Once you get a permanent visa, then you can do whatever you want. Some visas, obviously, they're different. I'm not a migration agent, so I can't really talk about it. But some visas, you need to stick with a company for a few years. But, for a permanent visa, I think it's worthwhile. So certainly employability in 2021 was really strong. If you are an engineer, especially a validated engineer, I've got some of my students that they've been validated, and as soon as they were validated, they got offers for a better job or a promotion within the company. Even companies offering them their visa. So it certainly was a good opportunity. And if you didn't grab that opportunity, if you waited since the pandemic came, if you waited to get your qualification validated, well, you still have time because the borders just started to reopen. But you probably missed the boat a little bit, because it takes some time until you get your qualification validated, and by the time that you get everything done and dusted, 3 months or 6 months, probably the overseas engineers will start coming back again, and then you have more competition with them. But if you are here in Australia, there's certainly a very good opportunity for you to get started and get your validation done and dusted. The other topic that I want to talk about is the demand for validation. And again, I know many friends that they work in the engineering industry, and many of them, they were asking me, Jason, I know that you have a good audience with engineers. If you know anybody with RPQ status, or Registered Professional Engineer of Queensland status, or CPEng status, can you please let me know, because the company has lots of opportunities. And that is the thing. If you are an international student, even though you get your qualification validated, you cannot stop with the validation. The validation process is just the start of your professional career here in Australia. It's your first step. You need to go further. You need to take the second step. The second step is to become a chartered professional engineer, or a registered professional engineer with Professionals Australia, or a chartered professional engineer with Engineers Australia. And if you are here in Queensland, once you attain CPEng or RPEng, you can then register yourself with the Board of Professional Engineers of Queensland and become an RPEQ engineer. I am an RPEQ engineer since, I think, 2010-11. So it's been more than 10-11 years that I am a registered professional engineer of Queensland. And if you are RPEQ engineer, you are not going to be unemployed, because the demand for validation and registration was in 2021 was very, very big. And again, why is that? Because 34,000 engineers since 2020 didn't come from overseas to fill the market. And the companies, and the projects and the jobs, they didn't slow down. Infrastructure projects, mainly mining projects, even building projects, they didn't really stop. And actually, there were a lot of new projects coming and major projects starting. And you've got more projects not many engineers. Obviously, the demand, it was really, really big. So I think 2021 for engineers was really good. During the lockdowns, we were pretty much classified as essential work, and we didn't stop, especially infrastructure in the industry that I work, infrastructure and roads and bridges, etc. We didn't stop. There were some restrictions in New South Wales and Victoria because of when the second wave hit, and they had many cases there. There were some restrictions in some areas for construction projects, but in a general sense, especially here in Queensland, we didn't really have any shutdown of the construction industry here. All right, the other topic that I would like to talk about is about the migration opportunities. So how was the migration opportunities for engineers in 2021? I'm not going to give migration advice because I'm not a registered migration agent, but I will talk about my impressions and my experience talking with other engineers about migration opportunities. And 2020 was a bit shy, but then 2021, with the opportunity of the board or the period of the borders reopening, approaching kind of now in December. So companies, they started, and states, they started to open up again. So there were several states that they released the lists for the sponsorship in the states, and they included engineers in the list. Even in the federal government, the federal list, they included, they kept including new occupations for engineers. So certainly for migration opportunities, 2021 was really good. I've got a couple of my students that they got validated, and as soon as they got validated, the company then started to offering some migration opportunities for them as well. So if you are here in Australia and if you are not validated yet, it's not too late. You still can start your validation process and still get the boat. You're not going to miss the boat yet if you start soon. If you wait a little bit more, you're probably going to miss the boat, because overseas engineers probably already validated and with permanent status, they will come to Australia. And the last topic that I listed here to talk about was about engineering projects. So how was 2021 in terms of engineering projects? I can tell you, especially in the infrastructure projects, it was really good in several states. Here in Queensland, especially here in Brisbane, we've got the Cross River Rail, multi-billion-dollar projects. We've got the Brisbane Metro, that is multi-million-dollar project. The Bruce Highway project, pretty much between here and Cairns, lots of projects there. New South Wales, and especially Sydney and Melbourne, they had lots of infrastructure projects and subways and metros, etc. So in the infrastructure sector was really good. In the building industry, lots of building happening, high rises and developments. You see just the cranes, the tower cranes everywhere, which means that there are high rises building. And new developments as well. Even if you want to build a house, it's going to be really difficult to find a designer. It's going to be difficult to find a builder. We are feeling that ourselves, myself and my wife and my daughter. We are trying to engage somebody to design and build a new house. But yes, they're so busy that they just want to talk to us like March, April next year, because they're so busy. And also one of the consequences of COVID is about the supply of material as well. So there are some places that they're running short of materials, and the industry cannot really get the raw material like timber, steel, PVC, conduits, and etc. It's not very available in the market. Even vehicles, trucks, and other items of plant, excavators and tractors, etc. Because of the technology, the chips, the waiting period is ridiculous. Sometimes it's about 6 months to get a truck, and then you gotta get the body to be done, and that's another wait for another 6 months. So to get a truck, you usually get 1 year of waiting time. So I can say that at 2021 for engineers, if you were with the right skills, if you were already prepared, if you were validated, if you didn't wait in 2020, when I said in the beginning of the pandemic, I did a live session for a checklist to start your process back in 2020. A lot of people, they did. A lot of people, they didn't. And those ones that they didn't, they probably now just watching others catching the boat and cruising along. Whereas if you are not validated yet, if you're still procrastinating, you're probably thinking, oh yeah, that will be my New Year's resolution. Next year, I will do it. But perhaps you said that last year, that you're going to do in 2021 and you didn't do it. So, but I'm here. I'm here to help you. I've got my videos in my YouTube channel. Beginning of March, I'm going to do another free workshop. So if you want to learn how you can validate your engineering qualification in 2022, make sure that you attend my free online workshop. Okay, so yes, just remembering that if you want to register for the free online workshop, the link is in the comments or in the video description. And I hope that these impressions and this information was helpful for you to understand what were your successes in 2021 and what were your blockages, and perhaps in 2022 you kind of help yourself to overcome those blockages. Decide to validate your engineering qualification here in Australia. Decide to get your first professional job as an engineer in Australia, and subsequently perhaps start advancing with your migration process, become a permanent resident, and in the future then an Australian citizen. All right, so I would like to thank you very much for your participation, and just reminding that next Sunday it will be I think, what day is the next Sunday? Next Sunday is the 2nd. So next Sunday, the 2nd, is going to be the first live session of 2022, and I will talk about a checklist for you to start the new year with a plan to get validated and increase your chances to get your first professional job. Thank you very much for your participation, and I'll see you next year. Have a very happy new year. May God bless you and your family, and I'll see you next Sunday, 8:30 p.m. Brisbane time. Thank you, and bye-bye.